Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ Envy, Angela Yee, Charlamagne the Guy. We are the Breakfast Club. We got a special guest on the line right now, Steve Stoute.
Hey.
What up, Steve? What's going on?
What's up, man? Feeling blessed. Happy to be here. I hope we come out of this better than we went into it.
Where you at right now? Where you quarantining at, Steve? Which one of your houses?
I'm in New York now. I happened to be in Miami when the whole thing started. March 11th, I was in Miami. It was a bar mitzvah that I helped get the talent for. 15-year-old kid had Little Tekka, Little Baby, and Roddy Ricch. With 40 wow. Jewish kids. I kept on looking at it going, man, it was 40 Jewish kids dancing and partying with yarmulkes on to the box. And, Lil Baby definitely smoking weed. And I'm looking at these kids going, this is unbelievable. This is unbelievable. One day there's going to be a black kid that gets this type of party. This is crazy. So anyhow, I was there March 11th. And then by the time that party was over, I found out the NBA season was canceled and Tom Hanks had COVID.
Wow.
And I just stayed in Miami and flew the family down to Miami. And I was there for the first 3.5 months. And then I just came back to New York when shit got crazy down there.
Right.
And the NBA's back tonight. That's good for your business. You had just did a deal with them.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, sports in general is good for my business. We work with the NBA, the NFL, the Knicks. You just want to get sports back. But by the way, the entire advertising business, especially television, is driven by sports. It's dominates. Live television ad spending is, the most dominant spend in anything advertising as relates to television.
So what's your relationship with the Knicks? What do you do for the Knicks?
Virtual fans too at the games, right? Don't they have like a wall where you can actually be in the virtual stands during the game?
Well, they're trying different things in Envy. I'm gonna get to your question in a second. With baseball, they're doing cutouts, which seems kind of not fantastic. Basketball, they're doing, it's more like NBA 2K, like a video game. It looks like they're pulling in the audio, let's go Lakers. They're pulling in that audio for momentum and stuff like that, and the sound effects. I think we're gonna see. I think it's gonna coming out of this. There may be some innovation in cameras and stuff as it relates to when fans come back. I think the viewing experience is gonna be different. They get a chance to really play around and try some new things, and it may definitely move the game forward as it relates to camera angles and sort of the fans, what we get a chance to watch from a television perspective when this happens. There may be a lot of innovation that comes out of this. At least that's what I'm hopeful for. Envy with the Knicks. My number one job is to do what I do, I think, the best. Help rebrand them. I think the Knicks is one of the greatest sports brands in the world. You think about the Yankees, the Cowboys, Manchester United, and the Knicks. That's how I feel about it. And obviously, we got to work to do on the court, the team, and all that stuff. But from a branding perspective, I think there's so much you can do. Merchandising, the apparel, working with different partners, just making great advertising that gets people excited about this global brand. That's my job. So,
how do you turn that around with everything that's happened with Spike Lee and Charles Oakley and their comments about, some of their players? It just seems like the Knicks don't care about the people. Like if you look at different organizations and different teams, it seems like they care. It just seems like the Knicks is like one of those teams that's like, yeah, whatever. We're going to make money regardless.
Nah, you know what? I think straight up, I think the owner is misunderstood. I think James Dolan is definitely misunderstood. He's certainly brash. And I always, as a sports fan, love the owner that's willing to invest and pay for the talent. Like, you look at some of the greatest owners in sports history, those are the guys that were willing to go buy the top players. And it's a very risky business, right? Because when you go get Phil Jackson, like nobody says, man, they got Phil Jackson. Like there's a guy who spent a ton of money to get Phil Jackson, and Phil Jackson failed. Or when they got, Amari Stoudemire and Carmelo Anthony, they're trying and they're spending the money, and it doesn't always work out the way you would hope it would be. As it relates to the Charles Oakley thing, was clearly a disaster. Charles is a very dear friend of mine, and that was terrible. That incident as a whole, just for New York, it was terrible for an icon to be seen that way. The Spike Lee thing seems to be, a matter of, a celebrity expecting certain privileges, and then when you don't get that privilege anymore for whatever reason, you start throwing a fit. That doesn't seem real. That's sort of, to me, like the Charles Oakley thing is definitely real and terribly unfortunate.
Did you see Jordan Greer's comments in the Sporting News when he said New York is always thrown out as a potential landing spot for marquee free agents because of the appeal of the city, the Garden, and the possibility of leading a basement dweller back to contender status, but none of that matters if Dolan refuses to change his ways? What were your thoughts on his comments?
Yeah.
He had something to say about you too.
Yeah, I definitely seen that. And I think with having Leon in, who's the new president of the Knicks, Leon Rose, West, Worldwide West, and myself, the three of us, I think that we're the best sort of team as it relates to being able to speak to a free agent, our relationships with talent, to bring them to New York. I think they've never had this level, in the last 10 years, this level of talent that can go out and pitch a free agent or convince a player why New York is great. But yes, based off of some historic things that took place, I understood the statement. I don't agree with it, but I understand where it came from.
You guys also have a new head coach, right?
Yeah, they're announcing a new. That hasn't. I don't think that's finally been officially announced, but there's certainly discussions where they're going through a search.
That same writer, Jordan Greer, said Dolan's poor judgment undercuts good decisions like bringing you in and Leon Rose. Do you agree with that? Does Dolan make your job harder?
No, not at all. I think Dolan is brash. He has a very strong point of view on things, but he doesn't make it any harder. Not to me, man. I like, it's different strokes for different folks, man. I like his very clear style. Like, he makes a point and he is very loyal to his perspective. Doesn't make it any harder. If you have a strong argument, he listens. If you don't have a strong argument, you're going to get run over. I'm a CEO. I understand that. There's people who work for me that come to me and they have iffy points of views on something. And I'm like, I can't make a decision with an iffy point of view. You got to have a strong point of view and a rationale behind it that you're willing to support all the way. If you don't have that, then you're not going to make it. And if you don't have that with Dolan, you're not going to make it.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
What did you think about the statement that he made? And people were criticizing him not putting out a statement in support of Black Lives Matter at first, and the emails that were circulating that ended up going public. What were your thoughts on that and how that was handled?
Angela, that's a really good question. I think the sensitivity around the beginning of the sort of re-immersion of the Black Lives Movement after Floyd, companies, and I get these calls all the time, they don't know what to do. They don't know what to say. They don't know how to address their employees. Definitely, it's still happening now for sure. But in the beginning, I kept on seeing all kind of random things from all kind of different companies. Bank of America puts $1 billion towards urban communities, and then like you hear that and then it disappears, or you don't hear the next step. And just countless amount of news and headlines about donating to the NAACP and XYZ. And I think that with the Knicks, they fell victim to the same kind of sensitivity where people were making these statements. The employees wanted to hear something. They wanted to definitely hear something. They weren't ready to fall victim to what the employees wanted to hear immediately. And it became an issue. But I think I had that issue in my company. Like, everybody ran up on me talking about Juneteenth. And the truth of the matter is, I never heard of Juneteenth before this year. I never heard of it. I heard mention of it years ago when I was a kid. Somebody I knew from Texas said something about it, but I didn't know about it as a national holiday or something that I should observe. And I know people who worked for me for 10 years who never observed it at all, that all of a sudden got pissed off that we didn't observe it this year. And I'm like, well, we never observed it before. What are you talking about? Like, I'm sensitive to the information, but like, let's not all of a sudden a week before turn our world upside down because we now have to respond publicly to the fact that we're celebrating Juneteenth when you didn't even know about it last year. I mean, there was a lot going on during that time. And I think it was a learning experience for everybody. I don't know if you guys heard it. Envy, you heard of Juneteenth before?
I have a couple of years ago because I had to DJ a Juneteenth party. But before that, on the East Coast, we never learned that in school. We knew nothing about that. I just found out, like I said, like 2 years ago because I had to do a party. But before that, no idea.
Yeah, this is crazy stuff, man.
I heard about it. I heard about it in South Carolina. Like, I mean, I knew about Juneteenth. You know, I didn't know about the celebration aspect of it, but I knew about Juneteenth. And then Blackish had did an episode about it a few seasons ago. But I would say probably this year is the first year I heard about people actually wanting to celebrate it.
Yeah, so it's, to me, so much of that. I mean, when I was, preparing to speak to you guys this morning, I was like, there's so much I want to talk about. I don't want to offend anybody. There's so much I want to talk about. First and foremost, Mike, United Masters and how well that's going, and the things I spoke to you guys about on a couple occasions about the rise of independence. You see that's gone through the roof. At the same time, I told you guys all that, you're the next Howard Stern. And you guys have gone through the roof. I mean, I couldn't be more proud of what each and every one of you guys have done in the last year. It's obvious, Charlamagne, you've become a household name. Your political journalism is absolutely relatable and has made a big difference in the way these candidates have to prepare for the smoke.
Thank you.
And, Angela, what you did, the whole entanglement thing, you set that up. You pregame that. I mean, it's the fact that you guys are on top of it like that. And the syndication of the show, it's everywhere. By the way, it's in Miami, is billboards everywhere. It's crazy. It's billboards nonstop. And then there's the political climate. The political climate, right now is tense. And what's taking place between Black Lives Matter and the peaceful protests, and then the anarchists, and how the media, both CNN and Fox, seems to be coupling them together. And by the time election comes around, I don't know if people are going to be able to understand the difference between Black Lives Matter and anarchists and people who are using the halo of a peaceful protest to do other shit, other things. And some of them criminal and some of them have nothing to do with Black Lives Matter, but they got the shirt on.
Right.
Yeah. I want to talk about. Let's break some of that up. I want to talk about the media industry, right? You have a perspective about racism in media and how Black executives get stifled in advertising. Can we talk about that?
Mm-hmm. Well, the entire advertising business is supposed to be an industry that is on the front edge of changing perception, understanding consumer behavior. In fact, they're experts at it. And they use that expert positioning to go around to all the brands around the world. I mean, you know, $30, $40 billion business, and say that they're experts. But yet, when it comes down to understanding the perceptions of African Americans or promoting African Americans, they have zero understanding of any of that or any concern. And I called it out very clearly that the leaders, there's a guy named John Wren who runs Omnicom, doesn't give a shit. There's a guy who runs IPG, doesn't give a shit. These are holding companies that hold all the advertising agencies, and they're public vehicles, and the CEOs don't care. And then they have this other job, which I'm not really fond of, the chief diversity officer. The chief diversity officer basically is essentially saying, well, if we don't have one of these, we're not going to be fair. So let's put a person in there to at least make it look like we give a shit. The chief diversity officer in most of these companies have zero power, and they're essentially creating a side door. Like, there's a black program out there. Let's bring in black people through this special program. And if you're super talented, none of you envy, you don't want to get a job anywhere through a special program. You're the shit. You want to get a job because you're the shit, not because you're light skinned and there's a light skin program. That's crazy, you know, but that's the kind of shit that happens in advertising and media overall. And we're going to change it. I'm going to change it. I feel like that's my contribution. If I could continue my journey in the advertising business and shine a light on the fact that they don't care and don't help and promote African Americans or don't have African American media strategies at all, because they don't give a shit about it, I'm gonna fix that. And I'm gonna put the ANA, which is a governing body in the advertising industry, on notice. I'm working very closely with Disney, who's helping support this initiative, and we're gonna make a change. I want more African American companies getting media. I want the Shade Room to get a ton of money. I want Revolt to get a ton of money. I want African American kids to decide that they want to be in the advertising industry. They want to be in media. I want that to be real options. And I'm going to do whatever I can to push that initiative forward.
How do you get these advertising agencies to realize that you can't just put a black face on something? Like, if you put a black face on something and that black face is not from the culture, it don't matter.
I tell them it's the craziest. There's a thing, they went from African American agencies and they created this thing called total market. So there was a period of time where if you were an African American agency, you'd get a piece of the budget, small piece, and you would do, you've seen those TV commercials on BET, like car commercials where there's a guy going, and the new Ford Explorer. You know for a fact it's absolutely for black people. Then they said, well, we're not gonna do that anymore. We're gonna do total market. Total market. Now, total market is basically saying all lives matter. That was a new definition. And when they did all lives matter, the total market solution, what they did was they'd bring in 6 black people, hire them, bring them to a couple meetings, and then the white agency would say, look, we do have black people. You don't need the black agency anymore. That led to the decline of African American companies, owned companies, getting an opportunity. And it's just broken. And I tell them all the time, you think you can put 4 white guys and 1 ambiguous black guy with the big hair and the freckles on his face and make it seem like that's a multicultural ad? Get the fuck out of here, man.
What are some things you have seen work from some of these companies? I want to hear like examples of who's done this well.
It's very inconsistent who does it well, Angela. Mm-hmm. It's extremely inconsistent, unfortunately. I wish I could tell you a good story and an example that should be followed, but I can't. It's spotty at best. I think one of the biggest setbacks to African Americans in business in the last 5 years was when the first initiative around a movement around Black Lives Matter happened with right around Kaepernick and the knee. Right after that, the Me Too thing happened. And diversity was not only African Americans, but it was also women, obviously.
Mhm.
And then when the Me Too thing got really big, you realize that companies for diversity, well, getting pressure on them to do things that were around diversity, that the beneficiary was white women. White women were getting promoted, white women were getting board seats, and it fell under their initiatives about diversity. So, yeah, they became more diverse, but not necessarily to the benefit of African Americans. My job, when I talk about this, is I want to carve when I look at your diversity numbers, I don't want to see white women included in the number. Not because I don't think that that's diverse, but because African Americans are disproportionately not being treated fairly. Mm-hmm. And if white women count towards those numbers, the familiarity, even if they're well-intended, their network, the white woman will get the opportunity. And that's what I've seen take place.
And that's the same thing with minority and women-owned business certifications, right? They have that where you can get contracts with the city, but it's white women who really are the ones that are getting these contracts with the city, even though it's supposed to be for Black people and for women. So a lot of times it'll be the white woman gets a contract from her husband or a family member, and that's how they manage to slide in and get those government contracts.
There's legacy networks, right? And the legacy networks, they breed familiarity. That's what bias is about. I say it all the time that even well-intended white folks, they don't realize that bias and racism are closely related. They don't even realize it. And so, yes, if your network and you know somebody, or you know of somebody who knows somebody, and they happen to be white, somebody's wife or whatever, and you're biased towards them because you know them already, and you give them the job, you give them the contract, you give them the opportunity. That's just the way it is. So,
how do we change that? We look at a lot of these businesses and a lot of these platforms where we're majority, whether it's basketball or it's football or even some of the music industry, but we own the smallest percentage, or if any percent.
If any percent, it's terrible. I think that we're one of the, we're super talented and historically want to be authenticated by getting put on. Being around a white person acknowledges you get put on. And the excitement of that actually gets you not focused on the end goal, which is ownership. And you realize all these companies, we don't need, you guys could, at this point, the Breakfast Club and what you guys represent, you could do this on your own right now. And I'm not saying that to cause a stir, but as an example of the evolution of we go from, we were at some point, people were servants. Then they went from servants to slavery, and slavery to employees. And now we have to go from employees to ownership. Like, that's just the evolution of the way things move up, right? So and that's where we are right now. I think we should be driving part of this Black Lives Matter movement should absolutely shed a light on the value of ownership.
You've been saying that for a long time. I was gonna say, you've been saying that a long time, especially for independent artists and what artists should be doing right now. So you don't feel any artist should sign to a label. You feel like there's no need.
Absolutely, man. Envy, it is terrible. When you look at it now, the record business is 100% a usury loan. They are paying, you get money from a record company, it is the worst interest rate of all time. Because they're giving you money, they say, hey, Envy, we believe in you. Here's $1 million. And then they give you $1 million and they buy your name, your voice, and your likeness, and then rent it back to you for 20% royalty. So then they own your name and likeness and voice, and they pay you 20% if it's worth and goes up in value through putting out music and et cetera. Like, that's terrible. And the fact of the matter is that artists today, you don't need a record company for distribution. They don't take the risk to print up a bunch of CDs and all that stuff anymore. You don't need them for distribution. It's on Apple, it's on Spotify, it's on Tidal. The cost of making music has gone down. Like, you don't need them to do that. And you look at some of these successful artists, they don't even speak to their record companies. They use their social media, they develop an audience, they put out their music, and then the audience that they develop, stream their music. And that's why I built United Masses, because I know that the dominance going forward is going to be independent artists and artists without record companies, leaving record companies saying, I want to capture more of the revenue myself. We just recently launched United Masses Select, which is an opportunity for artists to own 100%, get 100% of their money for subscription. And we also have the 90/10 version, which is free. So, like, my job is to give artists opportunities. We launched our deal with ESPN, where we can get artists, if you come through United Masses Select, synced in all the ESPN shows, First Take and Sports Center and all that, which is awesome. We also have NBA and NBA 2K, and we're announcing more. So I believe that independence of all things is going to be the new revolution that's going to come out of this. And it really gets down to not just independence, but what Angela and I just brought up, which is about ownership.
Steve, you also broke NLE Choppa and Lil Tecca, right? And so did they both sign major label deals now?
Yeah. Yeah, so by the way, we're the launching pad for a lot of these artists. I mean, we launched NLE Choppa, as you guys were kind enough to bring him on the show with me, in which Charlamagne made it very clear he would not have been on the show without me. I reminded that man. I was sitting there looking at him going, damn, that was a right hand. And Tecca, the same thing. But then we have, and they took money. Choppa got $8 million from Warner Brothers. This kid was 16 years old, put out a record with us in January, and in July got $8 million. I believe that the record companies overpaid because they want to make sure that anything that's successful remains in their ecosystem. And at the same time, the kid got $8 million. God bless him. He changed his family's life. I would have bet on myself long-term if I was him. But he chose to go that route. But then you have artists that are super successful that have stayed. There's an artist who is blowing up. I don't know if you guys know Toby. He got that song out right now. Yeah, Toby's been on United Masses for 3 years. And Toby is getting super critical acclaim and noticed right now and blowing up. And he's staying independent. So we're launching many different artists, and some of them opt out to take big money, and some of them stay. But I'm just proud to know that we are a platform and a launching pad for these artists.
What was your conversation like to say, okay, I think you should, because obviously those two artists went and got a nice big check. So if they come to you for advice, or did they come to you for advice, and what did you say?
No, they didn't come. Tecca's entire thing was, his manager was like, look, this kid's going to be a global superstar, and we're going to go get a record deal at some point, but everything that you're doing to support us, that was more of an upfront conversation. I don't think it was the right decision, but I respected it. The Choppa one was a little bit more touchy because I personally invested in the kid, and they went and got paid $8 million, and the record company, it was a bidding war, so it led to a lot of backdoor conversations, et cetera, and a bunch of lawyers trying to do sneaky shit, because when there's $8 million, there's a lot of guys with their hands in your pocket.
Absolutely.
But I've been there before. I'm a veteran of this shit. Like whatever. There's very few things I haven't seen in the music business. So, whatever, By the way, I enjoyed your dialogue with Snoop. That was crazy. By the way, just so that everybody, I was the guy who I got the tape. I was in LA. I got Jimmy told Dre Dre, I don't think he got the first single on the not the Chronic, the Detox.
Doggy Style.
No, he's talking about the Still Dre. He's talking about the Still Dre record.
No.
Oh, Chronic 2001.
Yeah, Chronic 2000. He's talking about the Still DRE, yeah.
Detox. Detox was the album we're still waiting for.
Right.
So, yeah, so I'm there, and Jimmy tells Dre he don't think he got the first single. And the album was done. Dre thought the album was done. So Dre and I, cool, and he had like 5 beats. I took those 5 beats, and he let me bring them back to New York to help pick the first single, see if I can get somebody to write it. I take the 5 beats, and I played it for Timbaland. Timbaland picked the instrumental for Still DRE, like that shit was crazy. Then I played the same 5 beats for Jay. And Jay picked the Still DRE beat and said, that shit is it. And then I asked him, would he write it? And Jay was in the studio and he wrote that song in an hour. He wrote the whole thing in an hour. And then when I sent it back to Dre, I was floored that Snoop spit JayZ's hook. I couldn't believe it. Jay couldn't believe it. We played the song. We would play we must have played the song 100 times, JayZ and I, bugging out that they were doing that part. He had that line in there, niggas try to be the king, but the ace is back. That line was so crazy. But he was just, Snoop brought that up. Snoop, we didn't even know that they did that. We didn't even know that rappers, we knew Dre, you could write for Dre, but nobody knew that rappers were spitting rhymes from other rappers. So when Snoop spit it, nobody knew that. I didn't know. No, we didn't know it.
And with Diddy and all of those guys?
Yeah, but Diddy and Dre weren't
rappers, right?
All right, Foxy Brown.
That's a good one.
Lil' Kim.
Those are good ones, but again, I think they were manufactured wouldn't be fair. There was an asterisk next to them. I don't know. No one seemed to care that JayZ wrote Foxy's rhymes. She wrote some of her rhymes. He wrote her whole album. She was writing her rhymes before her album. So she wrote the I Shot Your remix and Affirmative Action. And then Jay wrote the album. I guess you're right, Charlamagne. I never thought about it like that. Maybe, there was some asterisk next to them. Maybe because they were women, and that's everybody was like, it's cool if you write for a woman, a girl. But certainly we didn't think Snoop was taking JayZ's rhymes. How about that? Listen.
I would love to hear that version. If you ever find that version, I would love to hear the version of Jay doing that rap.
Crazy. The 2 things I'm looking for, and I have them, I just can't find them, is, you move so much, you start making money, and you move from the apartment to the thing to the house, and you lose shit along the way. You keep a bunch of shit that you shouldn't keep, like you find something that you had for 15 years and you can't find the shit you're looking for. And it's that tape, that reference tape, and Jadakiss spitting the Benjamins. Victory. Puff's part in the Victory.
Puff verse, yeah.
Jadakiss spitting that verse.
I saw you talking. Thank you very much. I saw you talking to Russ, and you said that if Drake went independent, the music industry is done. Do you really think one artist going independent can kill the music industry?
100%. In fact, I went further to say Drake is about to get one of the biggest bags in the history of the record business. And I said this, by the way, if you look back in time, I actually said this on your show 6 months ago. Not only is he going to get one of the biggest bags in history, but because if he goes independent, that's a big part of why he's going to get that bag. If Drake goes independent, what happens is when he puts up link in bio and his goes crazy and he makes the money he makes off of that, it's going to show everybody that if you build an audience, the record company actually doesn't do anything at all except give you money to possibly shoot a video or do some marketing, but that's something that you could do with your own money, or you could do something with some money. But it certainly doesn't need for you to sign away your rights and masters to do that. If Drake goes independent, it will crater the record business because he would be a big artist in his prime, defecting the system. It would be like if LeBron left the NBA and started a league, or went to another league that was the big three. Imagine if LeBron left and went to Ice Cube's big three. It would change everything. You know, the next kid that's coming up in college may go, you know what? I'm not going to the NBA. I'm gonna go to the big three, like LeBron did. Like it changes the systemic system that's in place. And if Drake went independent, it would crush it. And they will pay.
But do you think Drake would be in the position that he's in now if he hadn't signed to a label?
I don't think Drake has spoken to anybody at his record company in 10 years.
But I mean, from the beginning, you know, because being down with Lil Wayne, I'm sure helped him a lot in signing that deal.
100%.
And then getting to that point,
Yeah.
because obviously now Drake can do that. But Drake back then,
I can't tell you, and it'd be a good question for him, what the record company has actually done for him. What have they actually done for him that he couldn't do? They got it on the radio. That's what they'll say. But I'll tell you that, what was the first single on the mixtape? The Trace.
Best ever had.
Best ever had. No, successful.
That was crazy. And then the best I ever had was crazy. We all knew it. It wasn't like we needed the radio to tell us it was dope. And even back then, that was streaming was fledgling back then. So radio did matter a lot more to hear new music. But now, if you're an artist that got a song that's going crazy, if you put out Wangsta now, let's say that phenomenon right now, where the song just blows up and there's a subculture that just loves it nonstop, you don't need a record company to get it on the radio and to give you money to shoot the video. You don't need that anymore. So no, I don't. I think certain artists do need a record company. You know, you're an artist. If you're Ed Sheeran, you need a record company. If you know, there's certain artists that need that. But certainly not rap music. Not at all. Not at all. Rap artists do not need record companies.
But what about like artist development or having somebody hook you up with people that you might not know otherwise, especially if you live somewhere where maybe you don't have access to certain people and relationships?
Well, there's production companies, right? There's a QC, there's a Steve Stoute, United Masters, there's a Rockefeller. There are production companies that can do that kind of stuff. I don't think you need to go to a record company.
Okay. So a production deal maybe, but not necessarily a label deal.
Management.
Yeah.
But see, we know it's hard to get good management. You know how hard that is for people?
Angela, I'm not trying to come across like the angry, I hate record company guy at all. I'm really trying to just explain logically how times have changed. When things change,
I agree with that.
the definite, like, you know, the definition of the word artist has changed. When we were coming up, if you sang in the shower, you stayed in the shower singing. Now you sing in the shower, you sing in the shower, you can make a song and you can put that song on TikTok and go through United Masters and get it up. And that song could be a hit. And you can go from TikTok, from your bedroom to Billboard, like Lil Nas X did. Like these things could really happen. So it's not about it. The times have changed. Look at what happened in photography. Everybody's a photographer.
Yeah, with their phone.
Because of the pixel in the iPhone.
You know what's hard though, Steve? I'm gonna say this, but I do feel like because it's accessible for artists to make music, there's a lot more artists, right? And so I know every day people are sending me music and adding me on things. And so I do feel like sometimes it is really difficult to sift and filter through all of that. So that's been a difficulty that I've had. Like I do want to listen to certain things and we might get on things early, but it's just so much out there because it is so much easier.
There's going to be, by the way, and there's going to be a lot more. So you got to get used to it. I mean, curation and filters have to happen, but it's not going to happen because some guy at a record company predetermined who's going to be a star and who they're going to put out. The same way YouTube disrupted television and said, you know what? We're going to put out, you can see whoever you want to see. And young kids grew up admiring people that they found on YouTube more than people that they've seen on television.
That's right.
Right? You ever gone to one of those, there's one of those cons, not Comic Con, but
Culture Con.
Culture Con, they have, yeah.
Beauty Con, Culture Con, Comic Con.
You start seeing people react way more. You start seeing people react to people. You're like, who is that? And it's somebody who is doing how-to videos, makeup videos on YouTube. And they got lines and lines of people. And you don't even know who they are. But a young generation grew up on them. And if that person relied on television to get them a job, they would have never got one. But YouTube gave it to them. That was the person that used to sing in the shower that would never get discovered. So curation can't come from some CEO deciding who's going to get out and who's not. It's all got democratized. I want to go back to something else that pisses me off. The word urban. You guys got to, anybody who works at a record company who has a fucking urban in their title. I just seen some guy, Chris Atlas, got promoted to, like, the word urban is so disgusting. Every record company, for sure, get rid of that word. And you got an executive walking around with a business card that says, I'm the president of urban music. And they're supposed to go to somebody at TikTok or Facebook and hand that card out? Or worse, somebody in another industry and say, oh, they see the word president, oh, that's big. What the fuck is the urban music thing? What does that even mean?
What's the word you like, Steve? I like black.
Black works, but you don't have to make him the president. And by the way, white people, pop music, which is not performing, rock music, which is not performing, they should be the specialty department. And black music should just be president of music. The guys who do EDM and rock music and country, that should be more specialized. But if you do black music, dominating the world, that should be president. Everything else should be, subdivisions of that. Mm-hmm. These guys walking around with these titles and they think they're doing it. You ain't doing shit. Tell them to get rid of that fucking urban thing in front of your name, man. This is not, the Breakfast Club isn't urban radio. You mean white kids come up to you guys, look up to you guys as icons? It's not urban anything. This shit is just dope.
Now I know you're a Versus fan, and I know that you're real cool with Trackmasters. You managed them at one time. They're personal friends. I know you wanted Trackmasters to get into a Versus battle. Who would you love to see the Versus Trackmasters versus in that battle?
I was definitely wanting to see Trackmasters versus Jermaine Dupri. That would be a good one. Jermaine is super talented and have a lot of hits. Trackmasters got a lot of hits. And Jermaine didn't want to do it. He wants to battle Puffy and all that. I think he just want to fight the bigger guy to make it seem like he was in it for a bit. He's not ready for the Puff level. He knows that. The Trackmasters and Jermaine would be great. That's what I wanted. I was very helpful, and Swiss acknowledged it. The idea of Rick Ross versus 2 Chainz. I think that's going to be crazy. Crazy.
Who do you think is going to win that one, Steve? Who's going to win that one in your head?
It's going to be close, but I think Rick Ross has smashes. I think Rick Ross is right under I think Rick Ross has 40 smashes from his own joints to like the stuff he was doing with the Meek Mill, the French Montana, all those collabs he was doing. Then he got his Drake collabs, his JayZ songs. He got way too much monsters. I can't wait to see it. His verse on Devil in a Blue Dress on the Ye record is Stupid. I mean, dumb.
That's gonna be a good one.
I got two I want to ask you about. Usher, Chris Brown. I personally feel like musically, Chris Brown is not on Usher's level.
See, I think because you're older, I was talking to these kids yesterday, and they told me Chris Brown is Michael Jackson. It's different eras of
you should have stopped talking to them. You should have stopped talking to them when they said that.
Different age.
Chris Brown is not Michael Jackson. I don't care what the age group is.
We're turning into old men, Charlamagne. We're turning into old men. We're turning into our parents. We're turning into our parents.
I got eyes and ears. Chris is not Michael Jackson.
Well, he's not Michael Jackson, so that part for sure. But the truth of the matter is, I think Chris went through 2 generation changes. Like he stayed relevant, and Usher didn't jump the fence. Usher, was a long time ago. I just think that if you ask somebody younger that question, you're gonna definitely get the Chris Brown thing. If you ask an older person and confessions change your life, it doesn't even make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
So by that logic, Drake beats Hove in the verses. Drake beats Nas in the verses.
Well, no, I think JayZ has jumped from different generations.
Whoa.
And Jay has jumped different generations. Absolutely.
Jay has jumped different generations for sure. And the one thing that Jay made is Jay's music ages well, really well. Pop music doesn't age well. So
Usher's music aged well, Steve.
No. Usher's confessions aged extremely well. But when you wouldn't play Yeah right now without getting, unless you may do that in the shower. You may sing Yeah in the shower. Hey, Charlamagne, you may sing Yeah in the shower. I don't know.
Listen, Yeah won for Little John.
Get him a deal at United Masters.
Yeah won around for Little John in the verses. When Little John and T-Pain went at each other.
That was true. I don't know what T-Pain played then, but I guess for production it did matter. Listen, again, I think it's an age thing. It's an age thing. It's for sure it's an age thing. I'm an older guy. Drake and JayZ makes no sense to me in the verses because I think that Jay just got too many monsters that Drake couldn't compete with. But if you ask a person who's 20 years old, they probably, would see it completely differently.
That's how I feel about Chris Brown and Usher. I think Chris is great.
I think that's what makes the whole thing great.
Mm-hmm. It's all subjective.
They definitely got people through quarantine.
Okay, so one more. Mariah Carey versus Mary J. Blige.
Mary, all day.
Oh, come on. By the way, Mary J. Blige all day, but Mariah Carey's first album is ridiculous. That's an R&B album. It's really, really good. But
That Vision of Love.
Mary J. Blige all day. I went to go see Mariah Carey it was like 3 years ago. I went to her crib, and she has Marilyn Monroe's piano in her living room. Like a piano she bought at auction from Marilyn Monroe. And she comes down fully, just like to have a normal conversation, but fully like dressed diva all the way out. And I'm sitting there looking at her, talking to her, and I realized while I was talking to her that she's like the only one of that generation still alive. Like, she's part of the Prince, Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, 85. She's the only one that's alive. Like, she's a living legend is one thing, but like a rare breed that came out of that 86, 87, 88 era that were big back then, like huge on the Arsenio Hall show era.
Yeah.
And still alive to this day. It's bugged out to me.
Maybe Janet Jackson.
Janet, yeah. That's the
Definitely Janet. Yeah, I'd bug out because they're like rare at this moment. because so many of them died. You know, that's Pharrell talks about that, about like, why do you think celebrities and musicians die at such a young age? You realize, and you think about, like, a lot of them die at a young age because of, multiple issues, but just the path that a celebrity, a star, the pressure that's on you, leads to a lot of drugs, leads to a lot of issues. And a lot of them can't take it, and they numb the pain, and it leads to death. I never thought about that, but you look at, like, football players and pop icons die around the same age. It's a crazy thing. But anyhow,
Steve, we gotta jump. We got to jump to another interview, but basically what I'm getting from what you're saying is,
he said, "Why?"
What you mean, why?
I don't want to talk to anybody else.
And Steve, and before we do jump,
Damon Dash questions, we didn't touch Kanye West anything. This is crazy. You guys are missing out.
I do have one question that means a lot to me that I wanted to hear your answer on. That means a lot to me personally, right? The WNBA. What can we do to make the WNBA get more support and more dollars and more eyes on them?
You know what? The WNBA, the NBA players right now are doing such a great job promoting the WNBA. And I think that's what it needed. Like, when the new logo came out, you seen the players rocking the jerseys. They're celebrating the WNBA. I think the women need to become personalities. They got to step out more. In the NBA, the popularity came when Julius Erving, when Magic Johnson, the athletes started to speak more and transcend the sport. The WNBA, the athletes are great athletes within the sport. They need to transcend the sport. And the male athletes are helping support that. And
no, the women do, though, because they're very politically active. And so I just think people don't pick it up as much.
No, it's happening now. Angela, it's happening right now. The women are getting noticed, they're getting supported, and I believe they have a new commission in there who's doing a great job. I believe the entire thing is on the way up. So it's awesome. It's awesome to see women's basketball being celebrated the way it is in America. It's in college, it's huge, but the professional level hasn't grown as huge, and it's happening right now.
But I seen you and Dame Dash and you and 50 Cent speaking. I seen that y'all cool. Y'all squashed your beef, right? Are y'all speaking? Y'all good? Y'all on good terms?
We asked them about that already. That's all.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, y'all good.
50 and I, Queens get the money. 50 and I, our beef, whatever that was, dissipated, which is cool. And Damon Dash and I think if you get old, man, I'm 50, man. I turned 50. You don't see 50-year-olds fighting, man.
No.
Nobody want to get hurt.
You're gonna fly out to Wyoming? You're gonna fly out to Wyoming next?
I don't think so. Not yet.
Why not?
If he needs me, I'll go out there and support him. Well, I mean, first of all, it seems to be a relevancy. People are going out there and then see him, and then they get filmed on Instagram and posted about. To me, that's not what it's all. I don't like that type of shit, man. So I'm not going there. I don't want to be part of that. I'll talk to him. I would love to support him. I've known him for so many years, and I think he needs friendship. You've seen Charlamagne's interview with him. He needs friends around him. When this happens, part of it is you lost your homeboys. Nope, your men who with you, your day ones, ain't there. You need them, or you need them more than they're around. So I'm not shitting on the day ones. It could be you not realizing you need them around more than you have them, because you need somebody who's not afraid to tell you to shut the fuck up. I think we all need that in our life.
Yeah, absolutely.
What did you think when you saw Dame and Biggs and all of them together in Wyoming?
Biggs was in Wyoming?
Yeah. That was.
I seen Dame and Biggs together. I didn't know that Biggs was in Wyoming. The fact that Kanye can get a bunch of people to go to Wyoming, I'm sure Wyoming has never seen this many black people before in their lives.
I flew out there. I was out there before.
For Ye, right?
Huh? Yeah.
Yeah. That's the only reason why.
Ye is bringing black people to Wyoming. I mean, look what we're saying. We're talking about hip hop. We're like, yo, you went to Wyoming? Nah, I didn't go to Wyoming. Nigga, no. I'll go to Wyoming. I'll see them. But I think Biggs and Dame, it's great to see that, man. It's great. I think all that stuff is good to see. No beef, people coming together. It makes what we've accomplished and what we've done really important, and you can't dismiss it when the people who've moved the culture stick together and don't shit on it and make it seem like the beef is more important than what we did as a culture. Because right now, what Damon said was right. There are many, many culture vultures out there. There are a lot of people out there robbing our culture, appropriating it in advertising, in fashion. I'm seeing it over and over and over again. Like, and it's not even disrespectful, but hip hop, black people is hot right now. And you're seeing guys run around appropriating, like Gary Vaynerchuk. Like, Gary V, this guy whatever he does, does a podcast, takes a bunch of pictures with black rappers, and then like runs around acting like he's a hip hop guy. Or literally said the word, like he can hack the culture. Now, hack is a technical term you could do a workaround. A lot of, they do a lot, they talk about hacking a lot in Silicon Valley. Engineers, they hack a code or they hack a piece of technology. You can't hack our culture. You can't hack everything that we've gone through. People died for this. And like when I hear things like that, it bothers me. I actually told him that. You can't hack our culture. What are you talking about?
I never heard him say that.
Well, I can send you the clip for sure.
Yeah, I like Gary though. I think Gary means well.
Oh, I don't think that he doesn't mean. I don't even think that he's well intended. But we're so hot right now, you don't even realize that when you say something like hacking culture, that you think about everything that everybody went through. You think about Big getting shot in LA and us even being out in LA at that time. You think about the situations that each of one of you have been in to get to where you are right now that will help move hip hop culture forward. And then all of a sudden people show up and go, I'm part of this too. Well, you could visit it, but you're not part of it and don't appropriate it. You see it a lot in fashion. You seen the Kith t-shirt with Biggie on it? Did you see that? Like, come on, man. Nah, the Kith big shirt, you got it. It's like, don't go too far. It's cool, but don't go too far. Don't go too far. Don't get too comfortable. You can come in my crib and all that. Don't go in the fridge. Let me go in the fridge, man.
What do you think about the tights
from an
of Roy
advertising
Jones?
perspective? Hold on one second. I want to ask you from an advertising perspective. As much as people don't agree with Kanye's political views, as much as people don't know if he's mentally healthy or not, from a brand perspective, corporations don't seem to be afraid of Ye at all.
Yo, that goes back to the going in the fridge. Companies shoot first, ask questions later. Companies used to do business. Remember when Reebok dropped Rick Ross? You remember that?
Yes. Yeah, over the Molly line. Yeah.
Yeah. Meanwhile, they listened to all his raps, wrote him a check, and then somebody in the press wrote about the Molly line, and then they fire him. But they knew that line existed. They heard lines like that all the time. That's what they do. When there's public pressure on them, then they get rid of you. But until there's public pressure, they're cool with it. So in the situation with what you're seeing with Kanye right now, the Gap, Adidas, they're making money. They need it. They need it. And until somebody makes it a big statement about it, like because Ye did something that was offensive, so offensive that the New York Times decided to write that story, then they'll drop him. But until that story's written, they'll look the other way.
What did you think about Nick Cannon and Viacom?
Got too big. The problem got too big. Somebody wrote about Nick Cannon's anti-Semitic statements. We can't have that guy on our station. The CEO is going to find out. Get rid of him. You can't just say some disrespectful shit and then go on the internet and then say, I apologize, or my Instagram got hacked, my Twitter got hacked. Get the hell out of here. Stop lying. Nick Cannon blew it. He had no business even talking. What the fuck was he even saying? Nick Cannon is a public figure. And Nick Cannon got a lot of business with Jewish people, tons. And for him to go and make a statement like that, while those are his partners, he was playing career suicide, clearly. And you can't apologize for that. Like, you can't just say some crazy stuff about black folks and the next day say, I'm sorry, and apologize. We're not having that. And
well, white people do it all the time. White people do it all the time. I will say that. But to your point, you know, if you offend the people you're working for, God bless you. Good luck to you. Like, I don't think that's going to end well.
Yeah, and by the way, if Nick, and back to ownership, if Nick owned Wild 'N Out, it'd be fine. If Nick owned Wild 'N Out and he made those statements, if those are his personal statements and he decided to go take his business and partner with somebody else, I guess that'd be fine. At least financially it would be. Morally, I don't agree with what he said, but financially it would be. But he doesn't have Wild 'N Out. He's an employee, and he doesn't own that. And so now he's ass out. And it's unfortunate that he, this late in his career, screwed it up this badly, because it's very, very hard to recover from stuff like that.
I agree with you. I wish that, you know, because, you know, you look at like Senator Cotton this week, and Senator Cotton is like, you know, slavery was a necessary evil. And as offensive as that is to black folks, what punishment does he get? You know, what backlash does he get? Like, I don't. That's my only issue.
No, it's wrong. But you know what it works? There's the racism in this country. There are people who vote for him who actually believe that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So he definitely does appeal to his audience, or the audience that got him the job in the beginning. And that's unfortunate that mindset exists. And if there may be a lot of black people, there may be a lot of black people who agree with what Nick Cannon says. I'm not one of them, but there may be. And the problem is those people don't own Viacom.
Exactly.
Now, I was going to ask you about the Tyson Roy Jones fight. What do you think about that fight? And
I think I hope that they have an agreement going into that thing where they're just going to touch each other up a bit and not get paused and not go all the way, because I think Mike Tyson's going to destroy him if they would. I mean, you see those videos. You see those Mike Tyson videos?
Yeah, but they 25 seconds. We don't know if Mike can do that for 3 minutes a round for 8 rounds.
And Roy Jones has been training boxers this whole time and has the gym and everything this whole time.
I hope Roy Jones. Well, look, Roy Jones towards the end of his career got knocked out a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So did Mike Tyson. And Mike Tyson ain't fought since 2005. Roy won his last fight, Steve, in 2018, February.
I didn't even know about the 28. Okay. I thought Roy was getting knocked out in Russia. Went to Russia, got knocked out.
Yeah.
He had a lot of knockouts. You see the knockouts? You looking at it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I'm not looking at it now, but Tarver knocked him out once. He had like two. He had 2 in a row. Yeah.
I was at that fight.
But I think it's gonna be great. I love by the way, that's what we talked about. Like, of the culture still supports Mike Tyson. They're gonna watch that fight. I'm watching it. I love that. You know, Mike Tyson is somebody that the culture supports. We hold him up as an icon. That's important, because if we discard what Mike Tyson meant to all of us, we're creating, our culture has created these global phenomenons, and then as they get older, we shit on them and try to build another one when we could celebrate them. And, you know, JayZ is Mick Jagger. And Mike, you know, and Mike Tyson is, our version of, you know, Muhammad Ali and X, Y, and Z because of the iconic value and what they've meant to our generation. And as long as we don't shit on them, and we don't allow, and they don't shit on themselves, and we stay together and come back together and not beef all the time and look like older people just pissed off because we didn't make enough money, then I think that helps all of us. That floats all boats because it preserves the fact that what we've built in hip hop culture is something that changed the world. And it wasn't something that just came and went. And it's celebrated, it's documented, there's Hall of Fames around it, there's museums around it. All of those things preserve and create the long-lasting, historic importance of what we've all been a part of.
So let me ask you a question, Steve. You think even though I want to go back to Nick Cannon for a second, you know, even he did what he said was offensive to the Jewish community, but even though he apologized and you know he's doing the work to educate himself, you think it's a wrap for him? Because he still got the Masked Singer on Fox and he still got his daytime talk show and stuff coming.
Those things had to perform. I think it got out there. We'll see if people support him. We will see if people support him. Do I think it's a wrap for him? You know what it is? After Chris Brown and Rihanna happened, was it a wrap for Chris Brown? No. But he never got a chance to go all the way and as far as he could have as a result of that. Do I think it's a wrap for Nick Cannon? No. I don't think he can go. Nick Cannon had a chance to be Will Smith. I believe that. Nick Cannon was the everyday, household, good, clean-cut, famous, drumline, the whole joint guy. I think he had a chance to be that level. And I think that any hopes of that has been shattered by what he just did. That level, the potential of his talent.
Well, only God can determine that at the end of the day. So we'll see.
Well, you know,
I'm not claiming to be that. This is a talk show in which opinions are welcome.
Now, I want to ask you this question. I got one more question for Steve. I saw you on Bloomberg TV, and you said the pandemic will make legacy record labels a thing of the past. I feel like legacy everything is a thing of the past, and if people don't let go of what was, they'll never embrace what will be. What do you think?
Yeah, well, the pandemic is certainly the reset button. And you're seeing industries, look what we're doing. We're doing this from Zoom. You're in your crib. Angela's in her crib. I don't know where you are, Envy. But if this works and your audience watches this and enjoys it as much as me coming into your studio, why would you ever want to go back to the studio again? Why would you go back to the studio again? People like it. It works. And I think you've seen that in this format of talk shows. You certainly have seen that in the workplace. People are working virtually and businesses are going. They're figuring it out. We've become resourceful in this way. And if you are a business with big real estate holdings, or you're a business that hasn't figured out how to adapt to the new environment and are waiting for things to go back to where they were, then you're in big trouble. I don't think things are going to go back to the way they were. Certainly not as it relates to the way diversity was. A lack of it and a lack of concern of it. That's never happening anymore. And I don't think that businesses that are not fundamentally wired to allow people the freedom to work this way, the option to work this way, I don't think that they're going to make it. I think that those people will then go to another company that does have that, because this is going to become the new normal. You know, it doesn't take long for things to become the new normal. You talk about 2 years, 3 years. If something takes, if you're 17, 18, 19, and you go through those years and this is your reality, why would you not think that this is normal?
Yeah.
Those 2-3 years is how generations shift. It's how technology changes things. So I do believe that things will not go back the way they were. And by the way, as it relates to this pandemic, I think we're still in the first quarter. We're not halfway home. You guys see that? We're not halfway home. This thing is, everybody's saying, when do you think concerts are going to come back? Well, could you imagine 18,000 people in Madison Square Garden watching an act? Could you imagine that right now?
Late 2022. And that's if we get a vaccine early next year.
I think
Late 2022,
2022,
early 2023. Nah.
I think
If we get a vaccine early next year, people aren't going to want to get the vaccine at first. They're not going to feel comfortable getting it. But then it'll probably be some other treatments that come along. Late 2022, early 23.
That's when
So
people
the
gather
fact of the
together.
matter is that, so Envy, whether it's late 21 or it goes all the way to 22, you got people who just started working like this. And you'll be doing this show for another year like this. If your fans and the people who watch the show enjoy it, you certainly enjoy it. If you could you probably ain't got no bottoms on right now. You might be doing this shit with just
I got my biker shorts. I'm about to go riding after this. I got my biker shorts on though, but yeah.
And you comfortable. And if that's the way it works, then that's the way it works. And like, why would you want to go back to the studio again? Why should you?
No, I want to be back in the studio. I'm not gonna lie. I personally want to be back in the studio because what you said is very important. You said, do people like it like this? I don't know if people like the Zoom interviews as much as they like watching us in studio with a person having conversations.
Has your ratings gone down as a result of this?
The videos don't get as many views now
Videos definitely
as they used to.
Yeah, video
on
views
YouTube.
definitely.
So it's I'm wasting my time.
but not a little
Not
bit.
like they used to.
A little bit. A little bit.
Well, guys, thank you for always having me and being gracious with me.
Hey, are you getting rid of us now?
I'm gonna go
Look, the
check out
videos are not doing as good as they used to. Look, I ain't got time.
Ebro
See you
shit
guys later.
is going up.
I do notice that like our regular conversations seem to be doing much better on YouTube than they used to. Like we had a conversation about Jada Pinkett in August, and it had like 1.7 million views. So it's just like little things like that. It's weird. It's just different.
Jada Pinkett after the entanglement thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's different, bro.
Yeah.
Come on, man. That was
All right, like a day ago, we was talking about Ellen being under investigation in her workplace. That got like 263,000 views. So it's just different. I don't know. It's something different going on with this Zoom thing.
I got a question for you, Angel. When you interviewed, first of all, I never heard of that kid before.
You never heard of
August Alsina?
Never in my life.
He was signed to Def Jam.
That's crazy.
He's on Empire now.
That's the kind of life I want.
Yeah. We had big records. I think top 10 records.
You know what? Every time I asked about him, they said he was coming up on Trey's songs a bit and then didn't really, whatever. But I never heard of him. So I didn't know how he got the interview with Angela. I was like, how did they pull that off? When he said what he said
a few times.
When he said what he said, it bugged me out. Again, set yourself on fire and then drop the music. But the Will Smith shit was crazy. It still bugs me out that he sat there and had that conversation for Facebook.
It was their biggest numbers for Red Table Talk.
Great for them. But what about Will Smith? He's just like, you know what? That's the family business, man. I think they put a dent in the family's business by making that man look like that. You can't do shit like that, man. That shit is...
You know, Steve, people go through all kinds of things in their relationships and have all kinds of agreements with each other that from the outside looking in, we say, that's crazy if that was me. But I think everybody does things in their own personal relationship that they probably never would have anticipated would happen.
So you've been in
You
this
know what
segment
it looked
before,
like?
Steve.
You know what it looked like to me? It looked like an episode of Love and Hip Hop.
Well, listen, it really popularized the word entanglement, and then August put out a song called Entanglement with Rick Ross.
There it is. You set yourself on fire, you get attention, and you drop a song.
I get what you're saying though. It's levels, right? Like it's certain things you don't expect to see Will Smith doing. It's certain things you don't expect to see JayZ doing, Beyonce doing. I get what you mean.
But could they not address it? They kind of should have addressed it and on their own platform.
I guess if you want to, if you think you need to address it publicly because it matters, I guess I think there's certain things. You a big said problems with my wife. Don't discuss them. You know, like you can't be out there publicly. I don't think so. But again, I'm old school.
And you know, they also have a show that's all about being open about their lives and their relationship, and that's the whole premise of it. So you can't then, in good faith, go forward with something that's the premise of your show without addressing what's really happening in your real life because you've already
Looking
put
at
it out
Envy's
there.
face. Envy agrees with me.
Envy done put his stuff out there too. Envy done put his stuff out there.
I put my stuff out there, but all my stuff is for things that I'm going through. But I don't have no left stuff like that. Like, you know, I go through, me and my wife argue. We talk about, you know, things to try to help other, you know, relationships.
But anymore, but I think in the past when someone else brings up something and then you already putting your life out there, you can't not address something if that's what you've kind of built for yourself. Like they've built Red Table Talk based on this is my truth, this is my life, I'm revealing myself to you. Then something happens and you don't comment on it.
Okay.
Steve Stoute's ready to go, guys.
It's like being a Kardashian and saying I need some privacy.
Yeah, I guess so. I didn't know Will Smith. I didn't know Will Smith was a Kardashian.
No, I wouldn't go that far, but
Yeah.
Well, listen, guys. Seriously, but I don't take this for granted. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir.
And I am super proud of everything that you're doing. And you guys, we will look up one day and you will be bigger than Howard Stern. I guarantee you that. I know that. And I can't wait for that day to happen because it'll be another feather in the cap of the dominance and the importance of hip hop culture.
All right. Thank you,
thank you,
Steve.
appreciate it.